Welcome to the last section of Chapter 9, Conic Sections. Today what we're going to look at is this ellipse formula here. Hopefully that looks familiar. But I'm going to change a little thing. You see a little plus sign? What happens if I turn it into a subtraction sign? Well, we get this kind of funky shape here, and this is what we call a hyperbola. So, kind of looks like a giant X. It is going to be approaching some asymptotes, and we're going to check that out here in just a moment. Okay, so hyperbolas, like ellipses, are either going to be kind of sideways or up and down. And here you can see those two. A couple definitions for you. There is still going to be a center, but the center isn't actually going to be on the graph, kind of like your ellipses where it's in the middle, but they're going to be going outwards instead of inwards. So it's kind of a little different there. And we're going to have a couple asymptotes on each one. So again, that's a line where the graph is going to approach but never cross there. And the foci and some vertices. The vertices are going to be where they start turning around at. And the other big one that I want you to know is the transverse axis. The transverse axis is the distance between the two vertices. And just like on ellipses, the distance from one vertex to the center is going to be the length of A. And we're going to need A to write the equation. So this is what that general formula looks like there. Just so you know, there is another axis. We call it the conjugate axis. And it's the axis that kind of goes left and right here. It's hard to visualize because our graph doesn't actually really look like it uses it, even though it does. Okay, so here's the important things I need you to know. First of all, this is what the formula looks like. Orientation, if X is first, it's a horizontal, meaning it's the arrows point left and right. It's vertical if Y is first. And I need you to know the length of the transverse axis is 2A, meaning A is the first number that's up front, and it's the distance from the center to the vertex. We do need to go to the next page so that we can see another formula. Here we go. Okay, here we've added the H and K. Notice that the center is going to be at H and K again. If we were in class, we would actually take the time to graph the asymptotes, but since we aren't, we're just going to write some equations. And what we need to know, let me see if I can move this over here. What I'm going to need you to know is basically the transverse axis and the center. And that's all you really have to find. So get that there. So my first step is to identify, does this open up or does it open down? And I'm sorry, does it open up and down or does it open left and right? And since it opens up and down, it would be vertical. So I know that this is going to start as y minus my k value. I'm going to need to find the center. So since I see that this seems to, the vertex looks like it's here, the other vertex should match up exact. And then what I just kind of do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Divide that number by 2, and that's my middle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the middle of the hyperbola, which means my center is at 1, 2, 3, and -2, which is going to be my h and my k value. So it should be y minus, notice y wants k, so it should be y minus -2, but that double negative is going to make it a +2. Make sure you square that on top. And it goes over a squared. And since a was 4, that will be 16. Okay, then I will, not add, I will subtract the x minus h, and since h is 3, that'll be there. And then that's going to need to be over b. And I tell you guys what, for today, Since we're not going through and totally figuring this out, you can just leave that blank for now. It is always going to equal 1. This is going to be matching again, like your last two have been that I've had to do on Google Forms. As long as you can figure out whether it should be X or Y first, and the transverse axis should be first, you should be good to go. We're not going to dive totally deep in because it's really hard to explain this without having you guys in class. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to leave you there. It's the exact same as ellipses. Otherwise, it's just that minus sign and finding your own center. And I'll see you guys in the next lesson.